No one in the Martin family remembered placing the small, neatly wrapped present under the Christmas tree. They noticed it first thing in the morning, sitting perfectly centered between the larger gifts, wrapped in simple brown paper and tied with a frayed red ribbon. There was no tag, no handwriting, not even a smudge or crease on the paper. "Did you put that there?" Emily asked her husband. He shook his head. "I thought you did." The kids, Grace and Lily, stared at it like it held something alive. The box was small enough to fit in a child's hands, but heavy, too heavy for something so delicate looking. Grace, the older one, stepped back. Lily stepped forward. "Can I open it?" the 6-year-old whispered. Her parents exchanged a hesitant look. Something about the gift felt wrong. It didn't belong to anyone, yet here it was, nestled among their presents like it had always been part of the family. Still, curiosity won. Lily untied the ribbon, peeled away the paper, and lifted the lid. Inside was a wooden music box, hand-carved, smooth, and old enough that the wood had darkened into a deep amber. A small key protruded from the back. Lily turned it once. The box clicked. Then it began to play. A soft lullaby drifted out, slow, slightly off-key, as if the tune couldn't quite remember what it was supposed to sound like. Lily smiled. "It's pretty." But Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. Something in the melody didn't feel right. Something in it felt sad. That night, after the chaos of gifts and dinner and hot cocoa, the house finally quieted. The music box sat on Lily's dresser, lid closed. But as Emily walked past her daughter's room, she heard it. The lullaby. Faint, muffled, but definitely playing. She opened the door. The lid was tightly shut. Still, the tune played as if someone were winding it from inside. "Lily?" Emily whispered. Her daughter was asleep, curled into a ball, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Emily reached out slowly and pressed her ear against the box. The song shifted, just slightly, almost like it hummed in response to her touch. She set it down and backed out of the room. The music didn't stop until well after midnight. By the next morning, things escalated. Lily sat at the breakfast table humming the lullaby in a slow, broken pattern, not in a child's random happy way, but perfectly synchronized beat for beat with the tune the music box played. "Who taught you that?" Emily asked. Lily didn't look up from her cereal. "The girl in the box." Emily's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. "What girl?" "The girl who sings with me. She said she missed Christmas. She said she's been waiting." Her parents met Emily's eyes. A silent, uneasy conversation passed between them. Later, when Lily went outside to play, Emily opened the music box again. Inside the lid were faint carved initials, A.M. She searched Old Town records online that night, scrolling through grainy newspaper scans until one headline caught her breath. "Missing choir girl still unfound. Amelia Morrow, 1988. A photo accompanied the article. A girl with long braids standing in front of a Christmas tree, smiling shyly at the camera. Her initials matched the box. Emily felt the kind of dread that sinks slowly into bone. The manifestations began 2 days later. At first, just cold spots, air so frigid it felt like walking through invisible ice. Then shadows flickered in the corner of their eyes, thin, short, childlike. Christmas ornaments rearranged themselves overnight, forming shapes that no one in the family recognized. A stick figure with long hair, a circle with a cross through it, a single eye. Every time Emily and her husband argued, even over something small, the music box grew louder, its lullaby vibrating through the walls like a warning or a reminder. Lily changed too. She began waking up in places she didn't fall asleep. The hallway, the living room floor, once sitting upright on the stairs with her eyes open but unseeing. Her voice changed. Sometimes she spoke with a strange formality, using words she had no reason to know. "You should listen when she calls," Lily murmured once, staring out the window into the cold night. That night, Emily finally saw it. She went into Lily's room to check on her and froze. A second child stood beside the bed, small, transparent, frost clinging to her braids, face pale, and expressionless. She hummed the lullaby through lips that didn't quite move. Emily stumbled backward, slamming into the wall, but when she looked again, the figure was gone. Only the music box remained, vibrating softly. Christmas night arrived with a heavy snowfall, and with it, silence. Too still, too expectant. When Emily went to check on Lily, the bed was empty. A trail of tiny, wet footprints led from the room, down the hall, and towards the basement door. The music box began playing, only louder, much louder. The box was still closed, sitting perfectly centered on the kitchen table, yet the tune shook the air, trembling like something desperate was clawing at the melody. "Lily!" Emily screamed, rushing towards the basement. Her husband reached the door first, flinging it open. Cold, unnatural air poured up the stairs. The lullaby echoed from below, warped now, layered, like two voices singing at once. They descended the stairs, calling Lily's name until their shouts dissolved into mist in the frigid air. At the bottom of the steps, they found her, standing, alone, motionless. Her eyes were open but empty, staring straight ahead as she sang, voice low, breath fogging in the darkness. Behind her, something moved. A hand, small, pale, frozen, reached out from the darkness toward her shoulder. Emily screamed and grabbed her daughter, pulling her away just as the hand snapped backward into nothing. The air cracked like breaking ice. She didn't look back as they ran upstairs, slamming the basement door behind them. The lullaby stopped instantly. The silence afterwards was worse. They found Lily the next morning, outside, standing barefoot in the snow, giggling softly as if she had never been missing at all. When they brought her inside, she seemed normal. Warm cheeks, bright eyes, smiling. She didn't remember the night before. But the music box had changed. Now, when it played, the lullaby was no longer off-key. It was complete, almost beautiful. Two voices hummed together from inside, braided in harmony. And when Emily opened the lid, she felt her stomach twist. A new name was carved beside the old initials, L.M. Lily Martin. The box had welcomed her home.
I never planned on spending Christmas alone in my grandmother's old house. But when work fell apart and my relationship ended in the same week, retreating to the mountains felt like the only thing that made sense. Her house had always been a refuge, warm, wooden, smelling faintly of peppermint and old books, the kind of place where winters felt magical instead of isolating. At least, that's how I remembered it. I arrived just after dusk, snow drifting in slow, lazy spirals under the porch light. The yard was the same as ever, the frozen apple tree, the rusted fence, the open emptiness of the field behind the house. The silence here wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, like snow pressing against glass. Inside, the house groaned with familiar age. I unpacked, made tea, turned on the old radiator. The loneliness didn't hit me until later when I sat by the living room window and looked out at the yard. That's when I saw it. A snowman stood at the far edge of the property. 3 uneven snowballs stacked crookedly, lopsided stick arms, a face drawn with stones that were too large, giving it a stretched, unnatural smile. It hadn't been there when I'd arrived. Neighborhood kids, I muttered to myself, but something about it felt wrong. It was too far from the road, too close to the tree line, too deliberate. Still, I shut the curtains and convinced myself it was nothing. The next morning, it was closer. Not by a lot, 10 feet maybe, but closer. It now stood beside the apple tree, its long stick arm pointing, accidentally, I hoped, toward the house. No footprints around it, not even my own from the night before, just perfect, untouched snow. A strange sensation crept over me, like someone whispering behind my ear.
I backed away from the window, suddenly aware how quiet the house was, how the radiator's steady hum seemed too distant. That night, I heard tapping. Light, rhythmic. Tap, tap, tap. I checked every window. Nothing. When I looked outside, the yard was still. But the snowman, had it been facing the house before? Had its stone eyes always been angled upward toward my bedroom window? I slept with the lamp on. On the third day, memories returned. Not the warm ones, not the ones with hot chocolate and gingerbread. This memory was one I hadn't thought about in years. My grandmother kneeling down, gripping my wrist tightly. It was winter. I was 5. I had been crying about something outside. She whispered, "Never look the snowman in the eyes after midnight, sweetheart. They cling to lonely children." At the time, I thought she was joking, a weird attempt to comfort me. But now, remembering the fear in her voice, I wasn't sure. Night 3, I woke to a faint sound like fingers brushing against glass, my bedroom window. I grabbed my phone and filmed through a tiny gap in the curtains. The footage was only a few seconds, shaky and blurred through frost, but I swear, when I reviewed it, the snowman's head moved, slowly, turning toward the house. The tapping grew louder that night, always at windows I had just checked. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't sleep until sunrise. Day 4, I snapped. The snowman now stood directly beneath the bedroom window, as if it had grown from the ground overnight. Its grin was wider, stones pressed deeper into packed snow. Its stick arms were longer. I raised the shovel and smashed its head. A dull thud echoed, too solid. When the snow broke apart, something fell out and landed at my feet with a soft thump, a piece of fabric, dirty, molded, a sleeve. I kicked the rest of the snow pile and uncovered more scraps, cloth, strands of hair, something that looked disturbingly like a jawbone wrapped in ice. I stumbled back, breath steaming in short bursts. This wasn't a snowman, it was a container, a trap, something my grandmother had filled or buried in snow years ago. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with every light on, gripping a fire poker like it was going to help. The house creaked, the wind howled, the tapping started again, but colder, sharper, coming from inside the walls. The final night, Christmas Eve, I found wet footprints on the wooden floor. Not shoe prints, bare, human-shaped, dripping melted snow in a path that led from the back door, down the hallway, to my bedroom. My breath trembled as I followed them. Every step felt heavier, colder, like walking into deep water. At the end of the hall, my bedroom door was slightly open. Light flickered inside. I pushed it open. Something stood in the corner. Not a snowman. Something taller, thinner, shaped like a person carved from snow and frost. Its limbs were too long, its head cocked to the side with an unnatural curiosity. Water dripped steadily from its fingers onto the carpet. I froze. My heart felt like it stopped completely when it turned toward me. Its face wasn't a face, just indentations where eyes should be. A long, stretched mouth that opened slowly, like snow cracking under pressure. "You're not real," I whispered. The thing stepped forward, each foot leaving a wet print that began freezing instantly. A voice, not spoken, but somehow heard inside my skull, whispered, "You left me outside." I stumbled backward into the hallway. The creature followed, slow but unstoppable, its presence filling the air with a suffocating cold. I ran, down the stairs, out the door, across the yard. Snow blinded me, wind slicing at my skin. When I looked back, it stood at the doorway, watching, its silhouette blurred by falling snow. I didn't stop running until I reached the main road. Days later, neighbors found something strange. A new snowman stood at the edge of the property, taller than the others, more detailed. Its face was carved with unsettling precision, eyebrows, lips, cheekbones. A face twisted in fear. I swore it looked familiar. When I finally saw the picture online, my stomach turned to ice. The snowman had my eyes.
When Emma and I bought the little blue house at the end of the cul-de-sac, we thought we were finally stepping into the kind of life we used to daydream about. Snowy Decembers, quiet neighbors, nights where the loudest thing you heard was the hum of the heater. The whole street looked like a Christmas postcard, every house glowing red, green, gold, except ours. We only had one box of decorations, and inside it was an old tangled string of red lights we'd bought from a thrift shop for $3. It didn't matter how cheap they were. We were excited, laughing as we wrapped them around the porch railing, stepping back to admire our new beginning. The first night, they flickered. At first we assumed it was the cold, but then the flickering changed. Slow at first, then fast, then slow again. I joked that it looked like Morse code. Emma didn't laugh. The pattern kept repeating like a heartbeat. We turned them off and went to bed. But at 2:14 a.m., I woke up to red light leaking through the curtains. The lights were on. I got out of bed, annoyed, ready to yank the plug. But when I reached the window, I froze. The lights weren't just flickering. They were pulsing. Steady, rhythmic, intentional. I stood there watching, my breath fogging the glass. Emma appeared beside me, sleepy and pale. "They weren't doing that earlier," she whispered. Neither of us slept much after that. The next evening, a neighbor named Dennis came over as we were shoveling the driveway. He was in his 60s, bundled in a coat too big for him. He nodded toward our porch. "Haven't seen red lights on this street in 20 years, he said. I asked why, thinking it meant it as a decoration preference. He didn't smile. Not since the disappearances. Emma and I exchanged a look. "What disappearances?" she asked. He shrugged stiffly. "Don't worry about it. Just keep an eye on them." Then he walked away. That night, the lights began flickering again. But when I stepped outside, the cold biting my cheeks, the pattern changed. Long flash, short, long, long. It repeated over and over, like it was waiting for us to understand. "What does it mean?" Emma whispered from behind me. I didn't know. But when we went back inside, I checked my phone. The notification center was full, over 100 new alerts from an unknown number. Every message contained the same thing: "Let me in." The lights began flashing faster. We unplugged them, threw them into the storage closet, and agreed we were done with Christmas lights altogether. At 3:08 a.m., I woke to the sound of footsteps on the porch. Slow, heavy. The boards creaked under each step. I shook Emma awake. We crept to the living room window and peered out. Nothing. Just snow falling in soft curls, and the faint red glow of light seeping out from the storage closet down the hall. We stared at the door. Neither of us wanted to open it. But we had to. When I finally pulled the door open, every nerve in my body tightened. The red lights were on, plugged in, even though we'd wrapped them and tossed them in the back corner. Emma covered her mouth. "Did you?" "No," I said. My voice sounded small. The lights pulsed, slow and deep like a heartbeat. And then the pattern changed again. We both said the same word at the same time. Spelling. Emma grabbed a pen and began writing it out. On, off, on, off, on, off. It spelled our last name. Something was calling us. The dream started the next night. Both of us had the same one. A tall silhouette standing below the porch, head tilted back as though staring through the bedroom window. It didn't move, didn't blink, just pointed upward at us with a long, narrow arm. When we compared details in the morning, they matched perfectly. Too perfectly. We tried to distract ourselves, baking, music, anything to drown out the unease. But the house felt wrong, the air heavier, the shadows deeper. Even the sound of wrapping paper seemed unnaturally loud, like the house was listening. That afternoon, Emma found an old newspaper article while searching the town archives, looking for anything about disappearances. The article was short, barely a paragraph. A man had vanished on Christmas Eve 20 years ago. No signs of struggle, no tracks in the snow, just one note left on his porch. "It's calling through the lights." We stared at the sentence until our eyes stung. Then the hallway lights flickered, then the kitchen ones, then the lamps. Every bulb in the house blinked in a chaotic, frantic stutter until only one remained glowing steadily: the red lights in the closet. The storm hit on Christmas Eve. Wind screamed around the house. Snow slapped against the siding in icy sheets. The power surged on and off, enough to make the air feel electric. The red lights began to strobe like a warning flare. Emma grabbed my arm. "Something's coming." She said it with certainty, not fear, like she was stating a fact. The knocking started at the front door. Soft at first, then louder, then pounding. We didn't move. We barely breathed. The pounding stopped, then moved to the side door, then the windows. Then, horrifyingly, we heard slow, dragging footsteps on the roof. We clung to each other, listening to the scraping above us. Each step sounded deliberate, like something searching. When the power went out completely, the only light left in the house was the pulsing red glow in the hallway. Then, it too went dark. We sat in pitch black, our ears filled with wind, footsteps, and something else. Breathing, right outside the living room window. Low, wet, frozen. By dawn, the storm had passed. The house was silent. Too silent. When neighbors arrived after noticing our untouched driveway, they found both our cars still in the garage, the doors locked from the inside. No signs of violence, no broken windows, nothing disturbed, except a thin trail of bare footprints leading away from the porch and disappearing into the forest. Inside the house, the red lights lay coiled neatly on the floor, unplugged. All but one bulb was shattered. The remaining one glowed faintly, pulsing, almost hopeful, as if waiting for someone to answer. They never found us. But sometimes, late at night, neighbors swear the red lights turn on by themselves, flickering, signaling, calling someone new.